Hello. I just noticed that my countdown thing wasn't counting down, so something else for me to look at. Kind of odd because I kind of took a wild stab in the dark that my computer would have reset all of the audio stuff, which it had. So hence that's working. But obviously, until I hit go, there was no obvious way to know that that wasn't working. But it's not working. So yeah, more stuff that doesn't work. Just what I need. Well, good afternoon to everybody. Um, I feel somewhat duty bound to apologise for the lack of recent streams. As you know, I have been struggling, but on the good front, now I am on holiday until the new year. Now, unfortunately, that doesn't mean that instantly this second I now have all the beans to do everything and all the motivation and all the happiness in the world. Because I don't. Um, and to be honest, I mean it from the heart because I love you all. I don't want to be here now. But my promise to everybody was that if nothing else, I would do Friday streams. And I'm looking at my lace, and I still haven't found the other wooden thing. And I just kind of. It's a mountain I don't feel I want to climb today. But I also don't want to try and tat at arm's length. So it's lace or not. And so yeah, I feel lace will be it. So it may be a shorter stream. And usually when I say that, they go on just as long. But if I forewarn that it could be shorter, it is only fair, is it not? So it has been a bit of a struggle. Some of you will know why I've been struggling. But I've just had so I left my boss. I left work 12:15. My boss has just texted me to say thank you for the handover. Why didn't you say that 2 hours ago? So and now, of course, you've texted me in my own time to tell me this and remind me of work. So much as I appreciate that, he wanted to say thank you, yeah, it could have waited. It really could. So I'm looking at my lace. I feel we should do something. I just want to sleep. I so want to sleep. Now, the good news is I should be able to get some sleep. I should be able to eat better because I won't be ramming random things in my face to do in between work things. I should be able to sleep until I'm awake enough to wake, rather than wake up at the crack of sparrow's fart because the alarm's gone off. I should be able to do things that bring joy. Not always entirely sure that all the things I do will bring me joy, because, well, there are a few things that do not bring me joy that I really ought to be doing too. But I have things that I feel I should achieve over my time off. And you'd think with all the time that I've got, I'd get around to it. But the answer is I'm a slippery beast, especially when it comes to things that I don't really want to do. So as I live alone and no one is here to complain about it or make me, it's amazing how often you can put some things off. Even things that really do need doing, it's amazing how you can put them off if you really, really want to. So I do hope that maybe not immediately in the next few days, but certainly sometime next week or towards the end of next week, I will be a little bit feeling more myself. Now, I do view a lot of these things. Hello, Mother Puff. Welcome. So to explain it, when you've got to a point of feeling a bit miserable with life and burnt out and you just kind of want to sleep it all off, it's a bit like doing the washing. You throw an item of clothes in, say, the bathtub full of water, they are now soaking wet. It took, often, very little time for them to be soaking wet. But for them to dry takes a long time. And I view recovery in the same way. The thing that happens possibly happens really quite quickly, or at least snuck up on you and jumped you from behind. The recovery from it is not going to be, oh, well, I'll sleep it off today and I'll be good tomorrow. Because it doesn't work like that. I wish it did, but it doesn't. So I really do hope that in the next week, few days, I have no control over the speed of which I will feel better, but I do really honestly hope that things will start improving from here on out, for the next few weeks at least, for I will not be needing to log into work, although, of course, we all know how that worked out when I had a week off. But with any luck, I will be able to do me things. I will find things to make me happier. Less things to make me bitter and twisted and miserable. And, well, maybe find some spare oomph to do some things that... Because it's not that I don't want to do this. I do. I do want to see this done. I want to see my beautiful neck curtain. I want to see it in my window. I am so looking forward to that day. But the moment I go to look at it, I just can't. I just look at it and go, oh no, not now. And I hate that. I hate that feeling because, well, it's been a really long time since it grew. It's sitting there like a bad smell looking at me because it's right next to my computer desk. It sits there looking at me. And I am really aware that the nearest to laying a finger on it is I use the big flat pillowy part to put things on. This is not how it's supposed to work. So, with that in mind, let us look at the problem child. I'll just try and make space around some dog. Now, don't really want to do more of this side. Hello. Welcome to Fridays. Right. I don't need you for the minute. Even though I can see you've run away. Hang on, let's fix this one first. Put you back. I've come to the conclusion that nothing in this world should be round. And I will explain my logic for this. In that I am tired of placing flat enough things on a flat surface such as, it's got a flat bottom and a flat top. You put it down on a flat surface and it goes roll. Because somehow it actually does that, right? And I'm tired of it. I just want to be able to put things down. And because you see, I wound this up, but now there's a long tail. Where did the tail come from? I wound it up. Can we not? Yeah, it's funny how that shows the colours so much better than the photographs do. So, in case those who are wondering, oops, cascade failure. Hang on. The reason I mention it is because we made squares, and square A, square B. So this is how the pattern was originally written. Let me zoom in a bit. Hang on. Zoom. Because they are quite small little squares. Don't worry, I'll move over in a minute. Hang on. It's just, you can't do it all at the same time. And zoom. Zoom in quite a bit. Right. So this is how the pattern was written. And I'm not a pink girl, but this feels a bit too much pink to me. And if you remember the big one I made, she says grabbing the big one I made, big one I made, this one, it only had what I would call almost pink flowers on the pink petals on the flower in the middle, which is more of this style. If you look back, while there are extra fluffy bits on the outside, it is the if you can find one, she says, looking hard. So I'm trying to, if you take this here, that arguably is that square there, if that makes sense, right? So I quite like how this turned out with the pink petals with kind of purple behind it. Thank you. But everyone in the universe seems to prefer this one. And now, the reason I'm hiding this screwed up piece of crap here is because apparently I can't count to 4. So there's an extra bit where I basically, well, I actually ran out of thread, which makes it even more embarrassing. So why is this kind of knotted together? Oh, it's because I joined some together, right? So I kind of screwed it up by, it's very closely, it's free and easy because it's not held together by everything. So there are, hang on, this needs unwidgeting a little, but basically it's a bit screwed up because it's not got anything holding it together, but it's basically a 5-pointed version by accident of basically this, well, a kind of a combination of the two. So it also looks quite pretty, and I don't disagree with that, but it was supposed to be a square. And somehow it's turned into a pentagon. But I did, instead of pink on the outside with purple in the middle, it's exactly the same as this, well, except for it's got 5 points, but I did purple on the outside and pink in the middle. And I prefer that one marginally to the pink all around the outside. I still prefer just the little pink petals. I don't disagree. I don't disagree. But these are the 3, well, technically I could do reverse with pink in the middle and purple on the outside and all the rest of it. But these are my options. Everyone likes this. I kind of like this. And this was the inbred. It went wrong because I didn't count. I don't know how I did that. But this kind of summarizes my life at the moment. How did I achieve this? Because it's really not that hard. But somehow I achieved adding an extra side to a square. But in essence, obviously this should kind of fold over a little bit and be a bit more like that. And as I say, I prefer that to that, even though the only real difference is the corners of which way, the fact that there's a pink on the inside and purple on the outside. I do like the purple corners. And I said that when I was making the big one. I did like the pure purple corners. Now, like everything, as Christy says, I could checkerboard it. But I could also do pink on the, I could, part of me would say if I was going to checkerboard it, I would properly checkerboard it so that I would have all of the innards as pink and just the petals as purple for the other ones. But I haven't decided what I'm doing with them yet. So I'm just making them to practice my my tatting more than anything else. Because while I don't hate this, it looks a bit scrappy. I mean, it looks better than some of my earlier renditions. But when I looked at this one, now I haven't sewed the ends in still, so bite me, right? And I forgot to join one, so bite me on the fact that this bottom corner's not joined here like it should be. And this is the end, so this is not sewn in either. This was a lot neater. This turned out much better than some of the original ones. Now, it looks a bit blown on this camera because, of course, it's all white under a bright light. But in essence, this is a much more flat, much more even, much more. Oh, fuck off, spam bots. I haven't been streaming for ages. How is it that you bastards are always here? Tired of spam bots. You probably can't even see him, but there's a spam bot. Let me just fill in spam bot. Hang on. Bye, spam bot. Good riddance. So, but this looks a lot more even and a lot more, I won't say professional, but a lot more like I wanted. But obviously this is a bigger thread, but this is the fabled thread that I was after. So you may recall, let me put that off for a minute. Oh, piss off, round things. See, this couldn't stay on a flat table. This, that is primarily flat on one side, couldn't stay on my table without leaping off. So I bought this. I bought a few colours of this, but I bought this stuff. And it is Vega thread, which is polyester. Determinable by the fact that there is no maker's mark on it, right? And I bought fat and thin threads, and they're not horrible, but they're more like bonded nylon. So for anyone who's ever worked with bonded nylon, one of the biggest problems you can have with bonded nylon is that you tie a knot in it and it just automatically wants to come undone. It's quite slippery, but it's also quite adamant that it wants to be straight, which is great if that's what you're aiming for. Then I found what looks like the same shit, to be honest. Okay, this is a white one, but it looks like the same shit. Maker's mark on it. And despite the fact that, to all intents and purposes, there's a mark on it. Hang on. Don't know where that's come from. Does it wash off? Maybe not. Anyway, there's a grub mark on it. You can just about see it. This does act slightly differently. This acts less like bonded nylon and more just a slippery thread. Now, they do feel slightly different in my hand. Not a lot. This feels... How do I explain it? Is this the 20? I think it is. Yeah, that's 20. I can't be bothered to pick up the 20 version of this, but this feels quite solid. You can feel, even just by holding it like that and not moving, you can feel the hundreds of lines of texture with your thumb, right? And your fingers, but I notice it most with my thumb, right? If I pick this one up, I can feel that there's this kind of rogue one here, but these feel smooth. They feel like stroking, like stroking a cat, smooth and silky. Now, the thread itself is not hard. The brown one, let's call it the brown one and the white one, the brown one, the non-official, let's call it the knockoff, feels harder. It feels not rougher, but it feels more PVC pipe than it feels rough. Whereas this doesn't. And when you, I mean, as I say, I really should do it with the same, but I don't think, I think I only bought 20. But anyway, if I tie a knot in this near the end, because obviously I don't want to waste, I know I've got plenty of it, but that's still not the point. If I tie a knot in it, it does slightly, if you can see, it does slightly bounce back, but it does primarily, if I give it a bit of a twiddle, it does slightly come undone, but only really minor kind of thing. If I do the same with the brown one, Now this one might not do it as much because this is the 40, so it's thinner, but the 20 did this really badly. So if I do the same, give it a tug, give it a twist, give it a bit of fiddle. Yeah, that hasn't come undone as bad, but it just has this very solid, not brittle, but heading to brittle. It feels like it should have an element of brittleness to it, that it's unyielding. So I'm just going to chop the knots off because I don't want to forget, right? And when I did it with the size 20 of the knockoff, when I did the twisty test and just sort of rattled it around a bit, it completely came undone. It, you could have not quite driven a truck through the knot, but there was clear daylight all around. So with that in mind, the knockoff thread will do for some things, do not get me wrong. I'll also point out the knockoff thread is half the price. So from that point of view, but this was the fabled named stuff, and instantly it looks better. Everything looks more even. Everything's come out flatter, less annoyed. Now, the purple and pink stuff is clearly this shit. And this is Lisbeth size 40 crochet thread. Now that actually looks a little bit more pinky and shiny on camera. It's a bit darker in reality. Purples are notorious for that. But I mean, let me grab the pink because the pink probably looks a bit brighter on camera. Yeah, they both look a little bit more vibrant on camera than they really, really are. The pink is reasonably... If you think of the hot pink you can see and marginally dampen it with a slightly salmony hint. So it's not far off this, but it is... If you look down here, say in here, it's a bit more that colour than the pot pink there in the middle. This dark is much nearer sort of like this shade down here, our next mum nail down here. So they're really close. It is partly just how the camera is doing it, because cameras are notorious with really bad with purple. Anyone who's ever tried to take... Are you alright, dog? Anyone who's tried to take pictures of bluebells, because technically bluebells are actually purple, will tell you that the photos you get look nothing like. And the answer is it's the purple. There is something about purple that doesn't really work well with cameras. Hello, Amy. What can I do for you? Oh, what a yawn. It's a hard life being a dog and not having to work all day, isn't it? Yeah. The stresses and the strains that you go through. Yes, I know. I mean, God forbid, you only had 12 biscuits and a dinner and a snack. Yeah. Yes, the hard life you live. Yes, I know. I am aware that you feel that the world should be aware of your plight and your suffering, because the couch is not fluffy enough and the pillows are not soft enough. I know. I do. And I, the horrible mummy of all, deny you constant food. Yes. And stress you and make you wake up. Which I didn't. No. Right. She's gone away again. So yeah, I quite liked how this turned out, and I'm really pleased with it. So I am going to buy some more of this. It's not really appropriate for lacy lace making, but it is really nice as a tatting thing. And I am kind of getting a bit into the tatting thing, because it is an alternative lace that is still lacy enough that you think of it as lace. The reason I say it that way is because there are lace forms that don't look very lacy. Now, this isn't like delicate lace. This is much more practical, in my opinion. So if you were going to make lace for an item of clothing that is not going to be worn just for show, darlings. So if you were making like some ball gown thing and you wanted a bit of lace trim for the top, bobbin lace, sure. If you, or a wedding dress that's going to be worn like once and never again, sure. If you were going to say make a, like I had as a kid, a jumper that had a strip of lace all the way down the sleeve and then kind of as the yoke at the front, this would arguably, I'm doing really well today, be so much better because this is made out of certain stuff and you can make it, you know, fairly compact. So, I mean, if you had lots of these little squares in the middle and you joined them all together, it would be fairly compacty stuff. So, you know, it's not necessarily constantly made of big holes. Hello again, Amy. What? What? Little girl. What? You're being silly. You're being my sillies. But so it doesn't have to have big arse holes in it. You can have more compacty kind of stuff. But if you had, say, this as a strip down the sleeve of an arm of your jumper, or you made, you know, basically a large area, you know, rectangle. Let me zoom out a bit again. Hang on. So you made like a large rectangle of with these squares, and then put it in as the yoke of a jumper. This would be hard wearing enough that you could take your coat on and off. Not that bobbin lace is overly fragile. It can be, especially after time. And obviously, if you get things caught in it, that could be really bad news. But this is because bobbin lace is just twists of thread together. This is knots, and I'm sure Naughty Cat, and I say the word Naughty Cat and maybe a little bit, but because he is a bit like Beetlejuice. But because this is one thread knotted round another, there is that extra strength that entails. And while obviously it is bigger, beefier, butcher, and clearly less, you know, less transparent and as delicate looking as bobbin lace, to be honest, not necessarily as this particular square, but let's again take just this inner diamondy bit. If you made a crap ton of those, join them all together, that wouldn't look wrong as a neck curtain. I mean, it'd be a bit chunkier, but you see, the difference with, say, that, a ton of these as a neck curtain, and that, is that the mesh of that, from a distance, kind of disappears. All you really would be left with are the snakes and the motifs in the middle. With something like this, because light would still come through, but you've got more solid, the pattern of the thing itself would be more visible from a distance. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, if you look at Etsy, there are a number of crocheted neck curtains. Now, some of them are pretty, some of them are a little bit, I won't call, they're not ugly, but they have, a bit like they fall into this kind of category, in that this is pretty, it's not wrong, and in all technicalness, there is nothing technically wrong with it that maybe a bit of pressing and sorting out wouldn't make look a lot better, other than the 20,000 mistakes that I made doing it, because of course it wouldn't be a Liz project without mistakes in it. But it has this a bit of a scrappy look to it. And some of the neck curtains have that kind of overly amateur look to it. Now, I know I haven't finished sewing in all the edges of that, but as you can see from I did for the diamond in the middle, because you do the diamond and then make the outside. But if you know, from this piece, you know, if you made a neck curtain out of those for, say, a patio door, so quite a big piece, because obviously One of the biggest problems you can have as a crafter is you see something you like a pattern of. Let's say this, right? Now, that on its own looks quite big, because it does. And my little squares here, arguably, look quite small. But if you were making a coaster, well, that's a bit big for a coaster. But 4 of the others, 4 little squares, bit smaller, not bad for a coaster. And it wouldn't look wrong as a coaster. I mean, because this isn't quite the same size, but it's close. So, so this is almost a 4x4 grid of the little squares. Almost. I do stress that strongly, because obviously, technically, the square is here in the middle, like this. This is actually the square, right? But then there's all the extra bits around the edge. So it is kind of a 4x4 square, right? If you grew this up, it could be very busy on a very large area. If you were making a king size bedspread, that could look busy. This would not. Because if there's too many of them, they start disappearing because they become too small a detail. Now, it's not that small details are bad, because that's definitely not a problem. But it is more a case of the bigger area you're filling, the more things you need to fill it, the less you pay attention to the smaller detail. So, if I was to make, say, a neck curtain, two-tone like this, unless it was really subtle, in which case it's kind of pointless, might not work out. You're almost better doing one colour. And one of the problems with one colour, of course, is that, let's designate shuttles A and B. If A was purple and B was pink, you can swap them round without noticing. Now, there's nothing technically wrong with that, but obviously, arguably, you got it wrong. So I don't know. I am kind of enjoying the whole tatting thing. Oh, by the way, I really did make, this will make you laugh. I got some thread. I think this was the Vega 40 thread that came, that was not the official stuff, that was the knockoff stuff. Now, bear in mind, there is one bit that's got a tail and it's gone a bit fluffy. And I didn't sew all the ends in. But I want to show you part of my problem. So let me take these out the way and remind you that this is the crochet thread I started with. Now, they're pretty small. Now, if you made a neck curtain of those, that would be stupid. You'd either have to make it bigger in general, so instead of the same counts and all the rest of it, make more counts and make it more open. But you see, if you made a neck curtain, even just out of that, it would get a little bit, it would look wrong. It would look like a mistake. I mean, let me zoom in and you can see what I mean. Right, hang on. So it looks a bit wonky down the bottom because there's this fluffy thing there. But let me trim that, because it is somewhat almost unnecessarily tiny is the right thought for that, I think. But if I was to make a whole neck curtain out of these, other than the fact they're like 1 inch fucking square, and it would be an awful lot of them, and joining them together would be evil, because of course that's the other thing. The bigger they are, the less joins there are, so the less shit there is, because I definitely do seem to struggle. So when I made, let me zoom out again. Hang on, button. When I made this one, I followed the instruction to make it as a single piece. So you started, I think it was here. It wasn't in a corner exactly, but you started kind of here or something, and you went round and round and round and round, and then down and round and down and round and all the way around. And this was one piece. The problem is by the time I got to this corner, I've got a great handful of stuff, and sometimes you have it this way up, sometimes you have it this way up, sometimes you kind of need to turn it because you've gone around the corner, and you need to join something. So now it's kind of in the middle, and it got a bit cumbersome with, even though this is not really that big. Why does that? Oh, I see what's wrong with that. You were supposed to be joined there. This, you are a, what the fuck happened to you? Anyway, that was supposed to be joined there. That's why that looks so weird in that bit in the middle. It's because this little pink thing should be joined to this purple thing, and this purple thing shouldn't look quite so scrappy because it's basically fallen apart. Don't know quite what went wrong with it. It's just not held its... The middle bit is just a bit baggy, I think, which makes it worse. And then the outside purple thing has a little loop that's constantly trying to tuck underneath because it's being a shit. But there is a tiny little loop, which you won't be able to see there, that should be attached to this like this, which again helps it have structural integrity. But ignoring the fact that, so let's put it in my hand so you don't notice quite so much. Making it as one piece was really quite frustrating. Whereas making little squares, whether you make them with pink on the outside, or as I prefer them with purple, you make a little square and you join when you get, you make, say you start here, you go to here. Now you have a choice. I think, trying to work this out, what I did. I started here with this purple, made these things, joined this one, and then finished with this purple, so that I wasn't trying to deal with flappy thing, flappy thing, flappy thing all in one go. And so joining them really isn't that bad a deal, because obviously they're small, but you get to make the predominance of the square and then connect it. Now, technically at some point you might have to join a couple of sides, but only ever a couple of sides. So it makes it a bit easier to work with, because you're making, arguably, and if you think about it, let's say I've made these two. Now, okay, let's say I was going to be joining them to these. I could take the, I could go, if I'm in the doctor's, waiting in the hospital or whatever, and got all the time in the world, because, a lot of these things you end up waiting a really long time. And let's say I finish making one square. Hi. Not quite sure how to help you with that. I'm sorry. How did hi equal Alexa? Let's ignore that. So if I finished one and I was at the doctor's, sitting in hospital, I could make most of this. And let's say for whatever reason they decide to send me on to the next place, and I've got to wait some more. I can make two that join together. And you're going to go, well, Liz, but then what do you do with this one? Well, clearly I will not join these like this, because, well, you can't. But the moment I start making the next one for this, I can join. I've got 3 joining points I can put this on. So even if you've had to go away and you don't want, let's say this was substantially larger, I only have to have a place to add a couple. And if I don't finish this one, well, then I can come back and join it on. So working with the little ones is quite nice. This is a bit small. This feels unnecessarily tiny. I mean, close up, which, it's in person. It doesn't look wrong. It is quite flat. It is reasonable. It is a small rendition of the other bits. But it is, because, for example, here are its bigger friends. So here is, oops, she says grabbing the wrong thing, and that fucking thing's fallen off again. And again, ow. You down. God. So these were the earlier renditions. So these are size 20. I think this is a 40. I don't know quite why this one's that much smaller. I've forgotten why that was that much smaller, but it is. So, you know, that's what they look like in white. As I say, I've been practicing these, so, you know, I've got plenty of them floating about. It's... I do like the fact that, unlike this, where I can't exactly take this with me anywhere, right? Well, I can. It's not that I can't travel with it, but you're not exactly going to take it in your pocket to go to the doctor's surgery, right? Whereas, for example, it's a bit... I'd need to... Hang on, I need to zoom the things up a little bit because the threads are a bit long. Just because I every time I touch them, it's like fighting a cat. Yeah. Anyway, I can take that to the doctor's surgery. Because guess who's making another one? It's, you know, I've got a hospital appointment next Saturday. Although I might phone up and cancel it due to the fact that all the hospitals around here are riddled with flu and I don't want it while I'm off, right? But, because bite me is the short answer. Anyway, but I could put that in my pocket. Just one handful. I could put that in my pocket. Because my car keys are bigger than that. Because by the time you get your house key, your car key, the fob, the thing, my house keys take up more space than this. So travelling with this and, you know, putting it in your pocket because you know you're going to go somewhere and wait, having this isn't so bad. Can't really do that with this. This needs more space. Now, admittedly, because it's bigger and it's got a lot of bobbins, this would need more space. And you can get travel lace pillows, which are substantially smaller and designed to make things that are round about 1 inch wide. But I don't generally need something that small. And yes, I could arguably join them together. But it's got to be in such a way that joining it together is not going to look a bit weird, because you can't exactly do half a motif or whatever. So it's not like I could split this pattern in half and take it with me. It's a bit like if you're knitting a king-size blanket. If you've got to, you know, when you first set off, you've got a ball of wool, you've got maybe some really long circular needles, because, you know, that's a good plan. And you've cast on, you know, 700 stitches or whatever it is. But you haven't really got anywhere, so it still folds up reasonably small. If you're halfway through that, well, you've got basically a, you know, a single bed-sized blanket to tuck away, plus the ball of wool and the needles. Well, it's not quite as practical to take with you. Whereas with tatting, because so much of it you can make and join towards the end, you only need to take the bit you're working on. So I quite like that about it. I quite like the fact that it's quite a portable thing. it's also because you don't have to sit at a pillow, you don't have to sit at the table, you don't have to sit at anything. You can sit anywhere, anyhow, on anything. You still need to be able to see what you're doing, of course, so lighting has to be a thing. And eventually you'll need a pair of scissors and a needle to sew the ends in. You can sew the beginning ends in as you go, but you still need a pair of scissors for that, because you need to chop the end off, otherwise it gets in the way. But for the most part, you can kind of do your thing. And as I said, it's nice and practical. Excuse me. Oh, I'm sorry. I feel like the dog who's de-stressing from work, who yawns to reduce the stress. So I do quite like, there is an appeal to tatting. I don't necessarily want it to take over my life. Mind you, I said that about bobbin lace too. But when it comes to a neck curtain, as I said, technically the tatting could do a very reasonable neck curtain. But what I would be more tempted to use it for, hear me out, it's not a net curtain, because to me a net curtain's got a grid in it. It's got it is light and meshy, much more like bobbin lace. Admittedly, not all bobbin lace is light and meshy, but you know, the predominance of bobbin lace is, you know, light and meshy. It would make, how do I explain it? A good, yeah, and I think that's part of the thing, is bobbin lace is not really a on the go kind of hobby. Bobbin lace is you can take it to places, but you really do need a table, and you really, you know, I mean, you could sit on the floor and put it on the chair, but you still need, you know, to have packed it all up, put it in a bag. It's quite a big, cumbersome thing. Even when it's smaller, it's still a bigger, cumbersome thing. Something like crochet, something like drop spindles, something like tatting, something like embroidery or cross stitch on a cloth that you're not going to keep under tension, that you're just going to sew upon, is something you can put in your pocket. It's something you can easily take with you and do some of. It's a bit like the fact that you can now have a Kindle on your phone, right? Means that you've always got a book in your pocket, right? And I think that's that kind of practical, I can put it in my pocket, is a really nice appeal, because as we all know, any of the weavers out there will know that, well, it does sometimes take over your house. And then you've got the 58,000 balls of yarn to make stuff with, and the clanging on paraphernalia that you you inevitably seem to end up to buy to go with it. Whether it is pins in the case of, and maybe another or couple of pillows, or whether it's in weaving, it's you know, it's the a pile of shuttles, it's the different kinds of shuttles. There are the spare shafts that maybe are not attached to your loom right here, right now, because some of them you only add the ones you need. And, you know, there just seems to be your warping board, you know, the whole kind of, there's always extra stuff, right? And given that even the smaller floor looms are the size of a piano, an upright piano, whereas the bigger looms, well, mine's about the size of a small Land Rover, so, you know, they're not things that you can kind of Oh, I'll just put it in the box and put it away. Because it doesn't work like that. You have to kind of forego part of your house. Why are you licking my hand, little one? What is so exciting about my hand? I don't really want a wet hand. No, I don't. I know you love me with all your furry little heart, but my hand was clean. Was being the operative word, I feel. Now it has your slob and germs all over it. I mean, not that I object to your slob and germs distinctly, because, well, I'm used to it, but I don't really like wet hands. It's one of my autism traits, is I don't like wet hands. And you licking my hands, especially the back of my hands, which is tickly, I don't like. Can you not, please? Thank you. When I said, can you not, that didn't mean start again. Yes. So I do think that it would be nice, you know, it is nice when you've got some crafts that can be a bit more on the go. Don't lick the other one either. But I also think that, a bit like bobbin lace, you wouldn't make bobbin lace out of chunky knitting wool. I mean, technically you can, but you probably wouldn't. And I have a feeling that, because I bought some thread, and I misread the size on it, to be honest. Thinking it was smaller. It's not. It's considerably bigger than I originally intended. And I don't think you tat with particularly big yarn either. Hello? Hello, Amy. Why do I have a parrot? Hello? Hello? That's not a you trait, that's a Rory trait. Yes, it is. It is. It is. Yes. It is. Stood behind me and put a paw on either shoulder and stuck her head over my shoulder. That's a Rory trait, that is. It is. You've been copying your brother. Hmm? You're now lying down for a hug. That's very much a Rory trait too. Anyway, so yeah, it is. But I do think that, like all of these things, everything came into existence for a reason. And much like crochet does not look like knitting unless you're an ignorant soul. I mean, obviously you can crow knit and you can have Tunisian knit stitch, but the only crow knitting is much more like knitting. You just have a piece of string for the other knitting needle, which is a bit weird. But that's basically all that's different about that. It's so, you know, it's not entirely, it's not really crochet, and it's, so it is really just knitting, just with weird. And Tunisian knit stitch looks like knitting on one side, looks absolutely nothing like knitting on the other. So again, with that in mind, most things come about because there was a need for them. And crochet and knitting are different things, as is bobbin lace and tatting, as is needle lace, as is the various forms of bobbin lace. They all came about kind of for a reason. And I do think that there are times when a particular craft is far more appropriate than others. So I think crochet is a really good practical solution, because crochet doesn't stretch like knitting does. Now, when you're making a jumper, stretch is good because, saves you having to put too much shapage around the boobage. If you put on a pound or six, it'll probably forgive you. But if you're making a blanket, you don't really want it to stretch in kind of weird ways. And, blocking an entire, say king size blanket is not an easy thing to do after washing. But if you've got crochet that stretches a bit but not a lot, well, it's going to hold a blanket shape real well. Almost irrelevant of what you do to it. But that is its kind of purpose. And I think it's quite interesting that, we do tend to, but I like this, so I'm going to do it. But most of the crafts have their own purpose, or at least things they were better at than other crafts were. And with the invention of machinery, they've sped up lots of things. They can cut some corners, and all of that kind of stuff. But handmade crafts have been a thing of all the ages, and whether they were the poor trying to make money, the rich trying to fill the void, crafts have been a thing throughout most of mankind's history. Now, obviously, initially, they usually stem from the poor making something of a practical nature. Never a practical thing, right? But it was something the poor did to sell to the rich. So it became practical in the sense of it made a lot of money. It wasn't a quick way of making a lot of money, but you spent months making some shit, got some decent coin in your pocket. I do think it's kind of sad that there are so many things out there that there isn't enough time to try all the things that you want to learn, to find out which are the hobbies that you actually want to stick to. Which is part of the reason I think I'm a little bit. I've always been a little bit faddy with my crafts, so I really do like weaving. Not so much the setting up of weaving, but I do like weaving, the actual act of weaving. The only reason I don't like the setting up so much is it seems to take me a week just to put a bunch of thread on a loom. And then, of course, I can make something that's about 1 metre long in an hour. Well, it means I can burn through. I mean, I put 20-something metres, possibly more. I didn't actually count it. I put as long as I could. That's the truth of it. Or using the warping board that I had. So I got my biggest warping board and went for it. I actually don't know how long it is. But I've made quite a few and there's still room for quite a few more. So it's easy 25 metres or so. But if I really wanted to, if I got up at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning and did it if I did it 7 till 7 every day, I could have burnt through that in 3 days. Well, it took me a week to put it on there. And part of the reason I put so long on there is to avoid having to set it up again. So it is that kind of problem, is that weaving has its downside. It's also quite a wasteful craft. Or at least on this particular loom, it can be a wasteful craft. Let's be quite accurate on that. If I was not going to use the draw loom aspect of it, I could move the back beam to where it originally was, and then the amount of wastage is reduced hugely. So I think I've explained this before. If you think of these threads like this coming down as warp threads, right? I know they're not, but they kind of are. So you go, Amy, that'll help. Right, so if all of these threads coming down are warp threads, right? if I need to waste this bit, let's say it's an inch. I know it's not, but let's say it's an inch. But it's not an inch because there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 40. Well, so that 1 inch chop there is 14 inches. Well, quite often, I mean, my current thing's got like 400 warp threads on it. So if you wasted 1 inch, that's 400 inches before you've even moved, right? And it's never going to be an inch, by the way. On one of my looms, I think I managed to get I managed to define that the smallest amount of waste you could have was front through the castle to the back. And you needed kind of 6 inches at the front to do the tie on, but you could loop it round the bar at the back. So it ended up as about 24 inches. 24 times 400 is quite a lot. It's what, 48,000? No, it's more than that, surely. 400, so 2 zeros. 424s is a lot. It's been one of those weeks. Normally I'm good at numbers, but today maybe not so much. So let's just ask the calculator because so if I've got 400 times 24, 96,000 inches is considered a really small waste. Think about that. If I then tell you that the ones that are on my loom at the moment, the 400, I have, sit down, a 72-inch waist. That's 28,800 inches of wasted yarn. There are balls of yarn that don't have that many inches in them. And this is where weaving can be quite a wasteful thing, which is why, you know, at 72 inches of waste per warp thread, you put long warps on, because that way the waste per item is significantly smaller. So you wouldn't put 72 inches plus 1 tea towel on, because fuck that. You would absolutely want to make a shitload of them and have, you know, 2 inches waste per tea towel or something, right? For that very reason. Because in terms of waste, yeah, 28,000 inches. So what's 28,000? Shit me, that can't be right. I suppose it can. So 72 inches waste. Bear in mind that's obviously 2 yards. But well, and that's the thing. But realistically, you know, if you did not have another hobby and weaving was your only one, right? The length of the waist can be useful and it cannot. Let me explain that. So the fact that my draw loom gives me a waist of 72 inches. To chop it off the loom, inevitably you're gonna chop some of that 72 inches off, right? Because there'll be there's like 6 to 8 at the front, and then, you know, some hanging off the end of your work. So let's say you've got 52 inches, right? Well, my loom is not 52 inches wide. So what you can do is reuse on arguably a scrap project, but you can make scraps by taking old warp threads and using them as weft threads to go across. And you can do that, and obviously, depending on how wide you make that project, you can do kind of 2 or 3 rows, snaking it backwards and forwards. It could be a bit more fiddly, because you don't really want knots in it. But, um, you could do things with it. You can use it for spreading your warp. You can use it to repair other warp threads. So you can use. The problem actually becomes when it was more of the, well, it's 24 inches. Because then by the time you've knocked off 6 to 8 at the front, you've taken a bit off at the back where you chopped it off the work. Well, then you're looking at like 14 inches. Well, that doesn't really do shit. I mean, you can make pom-poms out of it if you want pom-poms. I mean, they're a bit 70s, aren't they? So there are things you can do. But it's that kind of thing is that, but as a default, it is known as waste, right? And one thing I quite like about bobbin lace is that as a general rule, there is very minimal waste. Because you get to the end, you've tied, you've done your knots, you chop off a bit. We are talking a few inches per thread. Now, obviously, for example, here we've got 8/4 bobbins. Therefore, if you wasted 2 inches per thing, it's, just under 300 inches of waste. But it's also spools that come with many thousands of inches on, and they're quite cheap. So you don't feel too begrudging about it. But some of the weaving yarns are not cheap. So to give you an idea, not that this is a weaving yarn, but you can get a spool not much dissimilar in size to this. And this particular spool cost me £9. It's sewing thread, right? Well, it is actually lace making thread, but you know what I mean, right? Effectively, it's sewing thread. Weaving thread, which doesn't really look any different, by the way. A very similar spool can be £25. Well, if it's 25 quid, you kind of want to use more of it. I mean, one of the reasons I use the really big 8/4 cotton that you may have seen me bang on about is because I could get it for like 80. Well, at one point, I think it was £11 a comb, right? Whereas the smaller, thinner stuff was £25 for half the amount of weight of the yarn. Now, mainly it goes further, but you also need more threads to go the same distance. And this is something I tried really hard to explain to my ex-husband, and he's not very good with maths. But let's say you have 10 threads an inch, because that's not an unreasonable number. So if you were making a 10 by 10 square, you've got 10 times 10, 100 threads going that way, and you've got 100 threads going that way. Each having to be at least 10 inches long. So you need 100 by 100 squared, so you're talking 10,000 inches of thread to cover your 10-inch. No, can't be right. 10 times 10 is 100, 100, 100. Yeah. No, it's not. It's 100 times 10, so it's 1,000. Plus 1,000. It's 2,000 inches, right, of thread to cover a 10-inch by 10-inch square. Okay. If you make it out of thinner shit that maybe is, let's say, 50 threads per inch, well, then you're talking 500 threads for 10 inches. So that's 5,000. Plus, so now you need 10,000 inches because it's thinner. So although you may have thinner, in technical terms, 100 inches doesn't go as far. Um, and it kind of melted his brain a bit when I explained to him that, like I've just done, a 10-inch square suddenly needs 2,000 inches. It can't be 2,000. 100 times 10? 100 times 10. Yeah, 2,000 inches. So 500 times 10 is 5,000. Yeah. So you need 2,000 inches to make a 10 by 10 square. And he was like, that's ridiculous. And I went, but it's not, because you're lying loads of threads side by side to fill a void. And he kind of, and when I explained that it's, it could be 100 threads wide if you get 10 to the inch, he kind of went, I kind of see your point. But what he didn't understand was then surely, he said, well, surely it's 100 times 10. I went, no, because you need the ones to go the other way. And he said, yeah, but they're only going that way. And I went, but it's the same distance. So basically, whatever you need this way, you need that way. Now, admittedly, as it comes to weft thread, you don't have to have the waste yarn. So it's not entirely true. But then you've got to add, let's, go back to 100 thread variety. Well, if you've got a 12-inch waist to that, not only is it, 10 inches, it's actually 24 inches. So now you're adding 24 inches worth of 100. So that's 24, so 3,400 to the 1,000 that were going the other way. Well, now you're talking 3,400 inches to make a 10 by 10 square. That's a lot of thread. And to be fair, the same is true with bobbin making, bobbin lace, and many other things. And tatting is surprisingly thread hungry because, of course, you're constantly taking one thread, tying knots around it. So it's not, I need to make this long a piece of thread, because you're not. The base one might travel that far, but the other one's gone round and round and round and tied itself in knots, and it's done like 4 times the journey. So you do get through an awful lot of tatting thread. Always suspicious when she's on a mission. But it is that kind of size, right? Is that there is this whole aspect that, how much thread do you need to make this? Don't know. Well, with weaving, it is quite a simple, fairly predictable calculation. With bobbin thread, it's not quite so easy. Especially the more cloth stitch you have, the more worker threads you have. So obviously, if you're doing ground mesh, it's generally equal for all of your thing. But if you've got spiders, so I've got the ones going backwards and forwards, or if I had, like this motif was a solid cloth stitch, well, one pair's gone backwards and forwards all the way across. Well, that one pair's going to travel a hell of a lot more distance than the one that just went from kind of there to there, right? And this becomes the problem, is that it's not as simple as, well, it's X times Y. It's a bit like knitting. In theory, if you make your swatch with your knitting piece and you measure exactly how much yarn you use to do it, you know exactly how much yarn is needed to make the finished item. Because again, with knitting, I mean, other than the fact that there's such a thing called yarn chicken, I mean, that exists in practically every sport. But unlike, knitting, unlike many other things, you don't really have scrap. You have leftovers, but you don't have yarn that you had to chop off the ball and do things with that you can't put back without a knot. So yeah. Whereas bobbin lace, obviously you have to wind it onto bobbins because that's the thing. So now with tatting, sometimes you can work from the reel, but the problem is you have to put enough on the bobbin before you started. how much do you put on the bobbin? Well, then you inevitably put too much or not enough. Well, either way, there ends up with being a problem because you either put more on and then didn't need that much, or you put way too much on in the first place and now you got scrap and it's not really enough to make the next one, but it's rinse and repeat, right? But at least with tatting, to a large extent, you can, until you get to like the last 8 inches and then you can't really stick it on your tatting shuttle and use it, but you can manipulate it with your fingers to a large extent. The amount of waste per item is generally quite small because you can use what's left over and then join a new bit and repeat and repeat and repeat. And so realistically, bar a bit of sewing off and chopping off, you probably waste 8-9 inches tops per entire item. That's not too bad. It is. What is wrong with you, dog? It's you, madam. You are being very irritating. Yes. Ow! Don't nibble me nose, you little cow. Is it raining? Must be raining. You're soggy. I didn't know it was raining. It doesn't look like it's raining. Why are you wet? Why are you dampage, darling? You are moist. Yes? Yes, you are. You are a moist little girl. Yes, you are. All over your back and your head and your ears and everything. All got a hint of wet. Yes, they have. And you're wiping them on me. Thank you so much. Yes. Don't bite my nose. No nibblings of nose. She does have a habit, because she thrusts her face in yours because she wants a smooch. The only problem is sometimes she opens her mouth to chomp back. Because, of course, when you go, mwah, you tend to open your mouth. All she sees is the open mouth. She doesn't realise that that's not the plan, do you? No. No. Don't mind licks on the nose. It's the chompings. It's the teeth, darling. Yes. I don't enjoy the nibbles. No. Mummy's not to be nibbled. Scritchy, scritch. Scritchy, scritch, 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 scritch. I've got a good bit. 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 You're excited. Yes, you are. Look at you. Look at you. Look at you. Are you silly? Are you a silly? Are you my silly? Are you a parrot? Darling, are you my parrot? She keeps trying to sit on my shoulder. Yeah, you got wet dog feet. You're all soggy. You're a soggy dog. Which means you'll smell soon. Joy, stinky dog. Will you be my stinky dogs? Yes, you will. Oh, Amy, you're as subtle as a bull in a china shop. You really are today. You have the bean. You definitely do have the bean. What is wrong with you? It is chicken nugget day, but it is not chicken nugget time. No, it's not nugget time. It is nugget day. I'm not going to disagree with you on that one. I will inevitably find somewhere that provides nuggets. I will. Did you just say that? Did she say that to me? She did. How rude. Hello, Rory. She's woken you up now, hasn't she? Oh, children. Do love you very much. I'm not exactly getting any lace done, am I? I mean, I know I wasn't really in the mood, but that still somehow doesn't feel... I mean, I can't see it now because there's a little black dog head in line. Hey, little man. You get your huggies just as much as she does. And you had best spot all night. You did. You slept so well last night. You got on the pillow and you slept all night. I know you did, because you're not on camera coming downstairs. So I know. And you were still where I left you when I went to sleep. So I know you slept. I do. I do. Did she say that? Did she? Oh! Jesus Christ, woman, don't headbutt me. She came barging in the hallway, leapt on the couch over the arm, and just ran into me. Darling, it's not like I'm small. You can't miss me. Well, clearly not. But how did you not notice that I'm sitting here? What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? Leapy things. Hey, Rory. What you guys can't see is just how close we are to... Did you just lick my bobbins then? Did you just lick my bobbins? Did you? I'm pretty sure you did. I think you did. Did you? Oh! I'm being molested. Oh, hello, little man. Oh, what? Hold on, everybody. I need to have my face licked. I got it. Yes, Christy says hello. Yes, she does. You're a good boy, really. You really are. You're a good boy. I do promise I washed that bit. I do. Breathe. Amy, stop attacking the letterbox. I don't care. You've been like this all week. You get good hug, especially when you're not licking my face, because then I can breathe. Hurrah! He's a good boy. Sure. I have to apologise. That's as far as I can reach, and as I tried reaching with two hands, those are the only two fingertips you can see. So I'm somewhat occupied at the moment. For Rory is sitting on my lap with his paws on my shoulders and his head on my left shoulder, giving me a proper little hug. So I'm getting a nice hug from Rory. He's sitting so quietly and so nicely, while his little sister is being a little cow and trampling on everything, and probably will spoil, because she does. Because you don't really know, darling. Oh, don't start face licks again. Oh, children. I know. You're a good boy. Will you stop headbutting me, Amy? I weigh substantially more than you do, yet you still manage to move me. You hit me that hard. Mhm. So I do apologise at the moment, but I can't reach anything. So feel free to encourage the conversation, because that's about all I can do at the moment. Because Rory's sitting nice and quietly, and I don't like to chuck him off my lap when he's being all quiet and good, even if it is a bit of an inconvenience. Because he is being a good. You're not falling asleep, are you? No, I don't think we're falling asleep. Oh, my God. Very good boy. It's not overly helping, though, is it? Yes. Why me? You stood on his nose. Poor little Rory. Oh, little man. There you were, sitting comfortably on my lap with your nose on my shoulder, and your sister came along, stuck a great fat claw in your nose. Oh, poor little man. It's all right. We don't hate her for it. She's just annoying. Yes. Because she doesn't do the sit quietly thing, does she? No, you do. Hmm? My beautiful little boy. Yes, you are. You're such a good boy. Yes, you are. Oh, such a good boy. I don't really want to beat you off, but I kind of don't feel I'm making much progress. I mean, I know you do, because and bear in mind, Rory is a bit of a nurse, so he will know that I'm stressed, and he will also be able to tell that this is quite calming. Oh! Ah! That's always the problem, isn't it? Is that, and again, this is what I was saying about, kind of this, in that this as a little piece on its own looks fine. I mean, on that background, so the brown, I am naturally drawn to the purple grid, with seeing that there is a pink detail, but I naturally first see the purple grid. But on a different background, you'd see the pink and not the purple so much. And what I was saying about earlier is that, if this is one square, as it stands like this, it looks quite big. But the more of it you have, sometimes the detail could get missed. So you're saying, what colour to pick. Well, the problem is what can look good as a small piece can look really overbearing as a big piece. I mean, this as a piece on its own looks great. But if I made a king-size bedspread, it would probably look a little bit too busy if you didn't have, I know, some element of stripe down the middle to break it up, or some random spots of some different colours, because or your mind would just see so much change of colour that it almost wouldn't see the pattern. And so, hang on, a work bestie moment. Hang on. He's off sick at the moment. Um, so if you know, in terms of colour, um, I've always said this about cars and walls in your house. There can be some great glorious colours. So once again, let's pick up my two lovely balls of wool. Right, they look great, but I bet you probably wouldn't paint your entire inside of your house those two colours. But as colours, they look great. But if you know, you might do some, you know, you might have things of that colour in your house. Cushions, perhaps. Blanket, fine. But if you had a big room and you had like a 12, 15 metre wall, because it's the length of your house or whatever, and you painted it stripes of that, it would be horrendous. Because it's too bold, it's too much, it's too fussy, it's too. So, colour is a really difficult thing to do. So, Christy, you were going to make a net curtain out yours, weren't you? Let's put this down. Let's put this down. Oh, dog. I am being dogged. I am. Come on, let me at least do some minor thing. Let me have a look at this anyway. Say, why have they all popped off the end? It feels too twisted. It's a bit different for test scraps because, I mean, as you say, the part of the difference about testing tension and testing things is if you want to do it lime green and brown or something, then that's fine. It's the final product that's got to be the right colours. So my in that case there, I would suggest colours you would least find yourself likely to use, i.e. the thread that you've got but you can't see yourself ever expecting to use it. At least use it for something useful. Because inevitably there are colours that you're drawn to and other people are drawn to. So, you know, white, black are commonly requested and wanted things because white goes with everything. Go for a colour that you've got, that some sickly green, some dysentery beige, some something that just doesn't look like it would go with a single thing ever. Sometimes you get what I call rainbow thread. She hasn't got the thing to hand, but I have got one that's like a variegated yarn that could have been nice, but kind of isn't. In that it sounded nice, it's got nice colours in it, but together somehow in the short and long staple colours that they've used it for, actually just don't work that well. They just look a little bit rum. So, you know, maybe that kind of stuff. Bright yellow is another one that doesn't tend to fit in a lot of places. Huh. Yeah. Yeah, I do know that feeling well. My usual problem is someone's book, you know, you inherit, say, a box of yarn from somebody, and you look at it and you can kind of go, I see why you have it left over. I wouldn't want to use it either. Yeah. But I don't want to sound ungrateful, but at the same time, and I've just seen a problem. Houston, I have seen a faba. Let's undo this. Liz, the stupid, managed to cock it up. So, Liz did not do close on that. There we go. That's better. Oh, God. Excuse me. It's definitely been a long week. See, I'm sure my manager didn't mean it, but he sent me a message earlier of... where is it? Thanks for the handover email. Enjoy your time off for Christmas and New Year. All the best, right? But I read that as sarcastic. Now, I'm sure that's a me problem. I'm sure he does genuinely mean it. There is a small part of me that honestly knows he means it. But the rest of me's going, yeah, kind of, no, you don't. Rory, such a beautiful boy. You are. Problem is, as I was saying, is Rory's a little nurse, and he can tell when I'm not quite right, which is part of the reason he's paying so much attention. And he knows that when I hug him, he can tell that I relax, that my heartbeat goes down, that I enjoy it, that it makes me feel calm, it makes me happier. So, of course, hence he wants to do so. Because it's in his very little soul to make me feel better, because he's a little nurse. And you, you're my little nurse boy. Yes, you are. You're a good boy. You are. Such a good boy. Yes, you are. Ever so good. Yes, you are. Yes, you do make me feel better. You do. You and I can spend lots of huggies. Yes, we can. We've got till next year now. We do. Yes, we do. We do. For goodness sake, animal. Amy, you spoil everything. You do. You always bark and leap and make poor Rory feel he ought to be defending the house when he's doing what Rory's do best, and hugging Mummy and making her feel better. Don't want to be licked though. We've been through this, little man. No, that's just my glasses. Mm. Mm, 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 mm. Don't want to be licked, little man. Mm-hmm. Mm. 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 Come on, off you go. I need you to stop licking my face. Come on. Now I've got to fucking wipe my glasses because they're covered in dog slop. That's something I really must do. Buy new freaking glasses. Because I can't see shit. You've come off a lot. What's the matter, little one? Why are you looking sad? There you go. I'm not a pink girl generally, so I do understand. The answer is, as I say, is to find a colour that either you just don't like, or B, you don't think really goes with anything. So it's highly unlikely to come up at another time. Hello. What's up, Amy? Ooh, lying down. That's good. Yes, you are. You see, you can be good if you try. See, you can. Yes, you can. Problem is you won't just stay there. You'll squirm and dig and maul and poke and lick and annoy. Yes. It's because that's what Amy does. It is. It is what Amy does. Is that what little Amy's do? No? No, little one. You silly. You my silly. Yes, you are. Chomp, chomp, chomp. Yes, you are. Chomp, chomp, chomp. Pot. Yes, you are. You're a good girl. Yes, you are. See, if you sit still, you get nice hugs. You do. Yes. You get calming, lovely hugs. Promise is you don't sit still very often, do you? No. It's not in your nature. You're too squirmy. Yes. You are too squirmy. So you've been fighting with something again. What did you fight? Could have been a bush, I suppose. Looks more like it could be your brother. What? Hmm? Hmm? Good girl. Are you? You being a good girl. Little ears have gone. What have you heard this time? Hmm? What have you heard this time? I don't want to be Lee Kid. No, I don't. Oh, banging off again. Good. For 2 seconds. Right, let's put some sticks on sticks. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. Let's make you a bit longer because, well, that way you fit better on the stick. You've decided to be awkward because you just can't. Maybe a bit more. There we go. Right. Now I can put you on the stick. And you need to grab one of you. 1, 2, 3 of you. Let's make you a bit longer. Not too much longer. Children. Of course, Pompey. Welcome to the channel. What's your question? Am I a nutter? Yes. No. Of course you can ask. I love questions. May not know the answer, but oh God, yes! I hold conversations with you lot and do this. So you can't entirely watch TV. You can, because I won't say you can't watch TV, but if it's one of those things you have to pay close attention to, because you generally look at what you're doing, you will miss things. But if you're listening to the radio, so you've got a play on the radio or an audio book. I love listening to audiobooks. Music, conversations, yes, absolutely. Lace making is effectively a very social sport. Technically not. Now, we were talking about working out how much thread you need. Yeah, that's a freaking black art, so don't even pretend that that's got calculations in it. Weaving is nice and simple. This, not so much. But it is, because you follow, there's a piece of pattern on my paper, so hang on, let me zoom in and zoom up. You will see I have dots and things on my piece of paper, right? These tell me exactly what to do. So it's a bit like dot to dot or colouring in the squares. Because if I pick a random dot, this dot here, right, let me put a pin in it because it'll make it a bit easier. Doink. So if I put a dot here, right, if I wanted to fill this pin in, this pin can only be done once that dot and that dot are done. So there's only so much you can do. And you can kind of do a few chunks and sections in that you do have a few choices you can do. But you end up inevitably kind of doing a bit, going that way a bit, doing a bit, that way a bit. Because obviously I've got a curved pillow here. So I can't work down here and still have a bit up there. Yeah, I mean, you do kind of need to pay a little attention to it. So it is easy to make mistakes, although technically it is not hard. For there are only really two moves, and the two moves go, just picking a pair of bobbins, left over right or right over left. They're known as cross and twist. The answer, do you have the tools to try that? Do you have a pillowcase? Do you have a towel? And do you have some pins? If the answer to that is yes, you almost certainly have enough to give it a go. Roll up the towel, shove it, put it in a pillowcase and pin the pillowcase down so it's reasonably tight. That will give you a smooth surface round a pillow that you can work on. For these, I made these. These are not actual bobbins. Actual bobbins do not look like this. I made these. These are made out of wooden sticks that I coloured in black and glued beads on. Christy uses some very similar. She took sticks, glued beads on. Because, frankly, everything else seems really expensive, especially when you start. And I quite liked, I kind of want heavy bit bobbins because I like heavy bobbins. No one else does, but that's not the point. So all of these beads are solid metal. These actually do weigh quite a lot. Listen, right? But Christy made hers out of beads and wooden sticks. She didn't colour her sticks. She is wise. But it is, you do not have to spend a fortune. You do not need fancy ass bobbins. All you need are an element of stick that you can wind some thread round, because all these do is give you something to have a big long chunk of thread round that you can pick up and move. I wouldn't advise it, but for example, you could wind it round crochet hooks. You can write, I've seen people use crayons. I've seen people use pen caps. I've seen clothes pegs. Clothes pegs are a very popular sport. Anything you like. Especially when you start. Because the last thing you want to do is spend a fortune on a pile of stuff and absolutely hate doing it. Because we've all fallen for that in the past. We've all kind of had a bit of a go at a hobby and gone, yeah, I want to do this. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Bought a load of expensive stuff and then actually gone, yeah, maybe not. And kind of begrudgingly looked at the pile of money you spent on it and kind of went, yeah. So, for example, Amazon, you do not have to, I mean, there are threads to buy and threads not to buy, but you can buy ankle lace thread off Amazon, which is pretty much this stuff. It's not exactly this stuff actually, but it's close enough. You get a piece of paper, you put dots on it. You can use square grid paper, or you can draw it and print it. Rory, not a helpful little man. By the way, we often have visitations of dog, and we're gonna. Oh, seriously, that's your thing, is it now? You're gonna sit there, really? I wish I could explain to you how this is not going to work. I'm sitting with my legs crossed, rather precariously balanced on the metal edge of the feet of my wheelie table, so it's really digging in my foot. And Rory has decided to lie on my legs. Little man, that's not helping. There you go. You sit there. Rory is a dog, by the way, just in case that's not entirely clear. No. Hang on. Well, this is what my dogs look like. So the black one is Rory, the brown one is Amy. And that's definitely the way to go, especially when you're trying something new. You do not want to buy the... Yes, you do not want to buy the crown jewel expensive shit, right? You know, if your kid was learning to walk and going to school, you don't send it in Louis Vuitton shoes, right? Unless maybe you're Elon Musk. You know, for the most of us, we don't even own Louis Vuitton shoes ourselves, let alone would we give them to small children who are just gonna scuff them up, lose them, eat them, or whatever it is small children generally do, and grow out of them. Oops, Rory, little man, what is wrong with you two today? Amy, you're not helping. So in terms of tools, these bobbins actually cost me... Well, as I say, if you took a beach towel, rolled it up, wrapped around it a cotton pillowcase, and you know, so not that this is a pillowcase, but pretend it's a pillowcase, right? So if you wrap this round it, and so let's say you're wrapping it round and it overlaps a bit, overlap it and then pin it down, right? And keep it fairly taut so that the towel is quite dense. You can then use that for a really long time as kind of this bit, because these do not have to be sitting on a cushion. These do not need cushion in any shape or form. This is the important bit for me. Now there's flat ones, there's not flat ones, there's all manner of shit. But the reason I say roll up a towel is because most people have a towel, after all. Hopefully we're clean-ish. Even if it's not a great towel, doesn't have to be, you know, your Sunday best. But if you wrap it up, you cover it in a when it comes to the grid, you can experiment a bit, especially when you're new. To be honest, the bigger the thread, slightly the better. So, for example, she says, grabbing a thing off a table. If you've only got crochet thread like this will be fine to learn with. Because, like everything, if you want, you know, if you started off with thread the size of a human hair, seeing what you did will drive you blind and maybe break, and you'll find it really frustrating. And being a beginner at anything is frustrating enough. You want to cut out all that extra rubbish. So all you need is something to wind it round, preferably stickish shaped. So as Christy said, she started off with colouring pens. As I say, see anything remotely stickish, right? Cocktail sticks are a bit short and a bit pointy. But you know, to be honest, lollipop sticks, because you can get plastic lollipop sticks that are not far off like this. Lollipop sticks. These are actually bamboo sticks off Amazon. I just don't have a non-painted one to hand. I did, but I buried it. And oh, hang on, there it is. Hang on, my autistic brain cell for you. So these started off as this. Thanks, Rory. So this is just a wooden stick that I painted black. Well, I coloured black with a Sharpie actually, but coloured it black. It's looking a bit sorry for itself because it had a bit of an accident with a Coke bottle, but you know, it's a wooden stick. The only thing I would say to you is, I know this is going to sound really important. Just hang on, let me look at this because this is looking a bit. Yeah, it's not very easy to show you with this stick, but sometimes you get these sticks. If you look on Amazon and it looks like lots of little tubes glued together at the end here, it's not the stick you want. You want a wooden stick that has like line grains in it, because that's a harder wood. So these sticks, I mean, they would break. If I wanted to break this, I could. Well, it is, but all you really need is a handful of pins. You do not need 50,000 pins like this. Handful of pins, piece of paper that you're going to put dots on to give it a go. A handful of some things to wind some thread round. The only thing I would say is make sure the thread's roughly the same width, because, you know, it's kind of important. You can do it at different thicknesses, but that's a whole new ball game. Start off with the same. Wind some around 3 times the approximate length you should wind on a stick is 3 times the amount you expect to put on your piece of paper as a whole. So you wind 3 times on one. You generally end up winding them in pairs, but even if you don't, you can tie a knot at the beginning, right? So wind 3 times the length of what you're making on each bobbin, and give it a go. There are lots of videos on YouTube about getting started, how to do the basic stitches, what they're called, because like everything in crafting, it's got a dumb name for it. So, for example, I'm in the middle of doing this, so I will show you, for example, this is known as cloth stitch, where you take these 4 bobbins, the rest all disappear into nothingness. It's only made out of 4. So cloth stitch would be left over right, right over left, left over right, and you're done. And then you do it again, and I need to do it again. Now, I have a cheat for that people on this channel are used to me doing, so let me vaguely undo that. And one of the advantages of lace making is to undo, you undo. So whatever you did right over left, you do left over right, and whatever you did left over right, you do right over left. So I'm back where I started. I have a cheat method. Now, to explain my cheat method, I also do weaving, and what cloth stitch does is give you the undery ovary that you are used to in weaving. So everything kind of, so if this one's over, the next one's under, and so on, right? So this one goes over because you've got to start with these 2 with a little thing in between, and then you just work all the way over to the other side, and it's a lot quicker. So that's what I do, because I'm lazy, and it cuts out lots of moves, and time is of the essence, because I've got a lot of this to make. So now I can show you, let me show you which is the easiest way to do it. This is the easiest way to do it. Let me quickly show you this. This was what I was originally making. I was making squares. But the problem I found, I decided on the squares, it's not that I didn't like the square, because I did like the square. What I didn't like was the fact that there's a hard line, and however I join them, they are going to look like squares joined together. And as a net curtain, that could be a bit weird, because this is going to be a net curtain. So we have changed to less strip. And on Instagram or wherever, because I'm kind of all over those, if you do exclamation marks socials, you'll find out where to find me. There are historical pictures. We're on YouTube. All these videos go up onto YouTube. So you can... Christy insanely is going through all the historical videos. Personally, I'd only rewatch one, even as a viewer, I'd probably only rewatch one if there was something specific I remembered in a video that I wanted to remind myself where I'd said to buy something, or a specific part of the conversation. I wouldn't just blindly watch them like an episode of The Archers, right? So it is. I do not expect people to go back and watch all my videos because life's short. Because realistically, all the squares are made were the same. With the strips are primarily, although not identical, because there's odd and even strips, and one starts with a little motif, one starts with a big motif. But realistically, there's going to be a bunch of strips. But you can see some of the historical things about how we tried some experiments. We've deviated from the theme, so we made bookmarks. No, not that one. There it is. So I've got a pile of scrap things that I have made over the course of a lot of this. So this is known as my insanity square. You can see a video on why that is. I have bookmarks. This one's got, not that you can see it, but it shows up for me, is there's very small silver thread holding the little diamonds in the middle. And you can see what I mean when I show you this one, which has got gold thread in it. So, and you can see that one on camera. And there's this one that has like pus green. Yes. And so I've got a white one. I have my experimental strip, where I where is it? It's in here somewhere. There it is. I keep finding a bit of it and then not all of it. So I have a long experimental bit where I tried different combinations of stitches next to each other as to decide whether I liked the look or not. Then we had some early square renditions. So this was an early square rendition, but it looked a bit dense, so we made it bigger. This was the original square, which has a slightly different design on it. But I decided, A, I didn't like these spiders, but B, there are also spiders in here that look more like I fucked it up than I actually did a good thing. So then we tried some other stitches, and this was the new size with new stitches. And I quite liked this, but maybe not as much. And yeah, that was okay. And then I made this, which is not actually the same lace style whatsoever and needs pressing because it's screwed up lump. But this is actually a circle. Before you go, yes, before you go, just before you go, hopefully you're still here, I want to show you one of our other examples, because this is possibly more inspirational than you can possibly know. This is my tin of other things, so ignore that one. That's not it. I wanted to show you these because this is two pieces in a slightly different style. Okay. But just to give you an idea, it's made of the same shit. Left over right, right over left. But these are two different styles. These are than the other one. But by the way, I'm treating them like they're delicate. They're not. You can, you don't have to treat them on, cushions and stuff. They, no Vestal Virgin, no, thou must not touch scenario. But these are what's known as Buck's Point, which is also the same as Chantilly and Tonda. It's just there is a minor difference in Chantilly. This you do cross, twisty, twisty, twisty. In Chantilly you do twisty, twisty, cross. But you can still do cross, twisty, twisty, twisty. It's just known as a closed stitch. So it's basically the same shit. So that's kind of... But this was something I made about this time last year, and I absolutely love this. This is a thing of beauty in my humble opinion. I was originally going to give it away, but I couldn't bring myself to do it because I liked it too much, so I kept it. But to give you an idea, it's not that hard. It is more a case of doing, because the pins hold everything in place. So it's not like you've got to sew and have perfect stitch length. It's not, excuse me, oh, just get out of the way for a minute. There's the other strip that I made earlier. So you don't have to have perfectness because the pins tend to hold everything in place. So as long as the grid is good, the work is good. So yes, the first one you make might look a little bit like the cat chewed it. There you go. So, but you're always welcome. You can hang out on our Discord. We've got a Discord, by the way. You can do exclamation mark Discord for that. You can hang out and show us what you're doing and ask questions. We all, you know, we tend to hang about when we're awake, so there's a chance that someone's about to answer you any questions. Now, not everyone in there is a lace maker, but people love to see people trying. So do feel free to join our Discord if you're a Discordy kind of person. I am now off till Christmas, so I'm going to be awake generally during British hours, although I'll probably stay out far too late most nights, so get up a bit late in the morning. But if you have questions, you're of course always welcome to ask them. For we would love for you to join us in our lovely hobby. And I have lots of people who come here who do not do lace making at all. But some of it is that there is kind of the camaraderie of sitting around while someone else is with you doing some form of crafting with you, even if it's not the same craft. Having someone around so to chat and go, oh, I'm knitting a scarf, I'm making socks, I'm sewing, I'm doing a cross stitch, whatever it is, no one minds, because there is just this. Crafting was always a social thing in times of the past, and with the internet, we get to do it on a worldwide basis now. And it is really nice to have people around to crafty. Part of the reason I'm doing the videos is because I'm doing it to document my diary of making it. But it is also to bring it to people who kind of go, what the hell are you doing? Sweet. Well, as I say, if you've got any questions, shout. Nice to meet you, Pompey. Where am I? Rory, you are being a pain in the arse, my man. My dogs are being real freaking annoying today. Just sit the fuck down, go to sleep, do something, mind your own. That's what I want from you today, dog. Amy, no. Just no. Don't stick your nose on my face. I don't want to smooch you anymore. I think you're ugly and you smell. You are. Hyper ugly and smelly. Yes. She is neither, by the way. You are hyper ugly and smelly and horrible. Absolutely. You're the big, smelliest, ugliest dog. And you know I don't mean it. Come on, just piss off, please. I'm finally doing some lace making and you're not making it easier. No, you're not. You're really, really not. I will do the nuggets. Stop nagging me. I will. I will get you nuggets. I will. The children. Christ alive. Anyone would think I've got like a shot tied to my face. What is wrong with you? It's 4:30. I know it's getting dark, but it's not actually that late. It's called winter. You've done this before. We have. We've done this before. It is not that late. You are not that hungry. You ate more than I have today. Come on. haven't exactly done much lace making today, have we? But we are at least doing some. And as I've said before, sometimes, even if you don't do a lot, as long as you do some, it's still more than none. And it's some you don't have to do the next time. So, unless you screw it up, unless you have to start again, of course. Because, you know, we've been there and done that, have we not? Or I've looked at something, realised I screwed up almost the moment I started, and we had to undo it all. I see an escaped bobbin. Yeah. Twiddly, 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 twiddly. Need a drink. Now, there was one thing I was going to say to you all. Twitch does this summary of the year kind of thing. I know you're asking nicely, Rory, but I don't really. They do the summary of the year, and one of the things that it did do is something like something like the top 2% of streamers in the making kind of category. I'm not quite sure how they determined that, because no offense, there aren't exactly a lot of you, but I don't know. I assume they kind of did some form of number of hours watched kind of deal, but apparently, according to some unknown calculation, so lies, damn lies, and statistics definitely apply. I'm in the top 2%. There you go. Although I've been a bit crap this last month, as I have acknowledged on many occasions. But we're going to try better, aren't we, Rory? Yes, we are. And you're going to behave better. Yes. I know you're out of practice. I do. I do know you're out of practice. Oh, and by the way, I probably won't stream tomorrow because PoE 2 comes out in about an hour and a half. And I kind of fancy playing some PoE 2. I didn't really do much the last... That's not true. I did play quite a few hours, but not in one go. Over the last release, the only problem is I didn't get very far with it because I suck. Well, I mean that genuinely. I'm not a great games player. I like writing games, or trying to, but I'm not exactly gamer of the year or anything, which is why I don't stream it, because I do suck. But I really do fancy kind of this one. I'm kind of really up for this idea, and as you know, I've been suffering from a lack of motivation. So the fact that I'm kind of really up for this, and I have been for a few days now, get a bit excited because, as I say, you know, kind of like 90 minutes to go. Well, actually, it's 88 minutes to go, but like, who's counting? And so there is a little bit of me that's kind of going, you know what? I really could do that. So I do see myself very much occupied. Now, I'll probably be up during the hours of streaming tomorrow, but I'll probably be Path of Exile 2ing. So, just to warn you. On the other hand, if I suck so hard at it, maybe I'll be back. You know? Or maybe I'll have had my fill by then. Because if I do the, hey, get to 11 o'clock tonight and go, well, I'm wide awake now, and play all night, maybe I'll stream tomorrow. So I'm not promising, but fair warning, may not happen. Path of Exile. Yeah, Rory, my dear beloved little boy, for I do love you with all of my heart and soul, because you are a good boy. Can you stop licking my jumper? Miserable, wretched animal. You make... Oh, it's all soggy at the corner now. Kiss, you slobbed it. You did. Part of the reason when Rory licks my face, occasionally I make a lot of noise about it, is Dogs' tongues have two sides. One is kind of dry and raspy. The other is silky smooth and very, very wet. That's the underneath side. And occasionally he gets me with the sopping wet side. And that is a little less pleasant. But I still love him. Because he can be a good boy. Aren't you? Eh? Good boy. Are you? Well, you're not helping. But what I want to do is finish this spider. Yes. I want to finish this spider. I do. Finish spider. And then we will think about ordering nuggets. If you want me to order the nuggets, I've got to finish this. See, you're not moving. So I assume you don't want any nuggets then. Do you not want nuggets? You do want nuggets. Right. So then I need to finish this. Does that work? Right. One of you's understood. You going to go? You going to go so I can finish this and order nuggets? Okay. Right. She says, quickly making the most of it. Hang on. Make sure I don't get it wrong. Much as it is a bit of a cop-out, I have been going for nearly 2.5 hours, which is a lot more than I thought I was going to do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I'm glad I did, because, well, I know I haven't exactly done much, you know. Hello, I am aware of that. But if I put this back over here, and then we take this, and this over here. And take this and put this back over here to keep those straight. There's my phone. There is. Take a picture. The ubiquitously pictured picture. Oh, Christy, I know what I was going to say to you. Let me get the name of it. Hang on. If Christy's still around, I'm sure she is. I was going to let me get the name of it. What's it called again? Because I know you like GIMP. Well, there is also Affinity. Affinity is literally the free version of Photoshop made by somebody else, but it is identical almost to use. And so it has an awful lot of, but it's absolutely free. So much like GIMP, it doesn't cost you 50,000 billion quid to remotely look at it. But it is very flexible and useful. So I thought you might be like to, I was going to mention that to you because I know you like doing things. So you might want to have a look at that because obviously that might help with some of the printing issues, perhaps. To have a look at. So thought I was going to say that to you, and my mind kind of did the yes, whoomph, and went off at tangent. So I'm going to go. As I say, I may not stream tomorrow night due to Path of Exile because, well, that's definitely a thing. But I will let you know how I'm doing because obviously I'll be awake. So I will let you know. But hopefully over the next week I will be a little bit more online. As I say, maybe not immediately because I need to catch up on the sleep, but soon, hopefully. I feel a little bit better already, to be honest, knowing that I don't have to work for the next couple of weeks. So, a bit more sleep, eat a bit better, relax a bit more, hug some more dog, No, but at the same time, having a bit of compatibility and all that kind of other stuff. But again, it's also a free product that basically does the same idea. But it also does vector graphics, so you could take your dots and scale them without actually having to scale them, if that makes sense. So you could take the whole pattern and scale it without scaling it. If, as I say, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but it kind of does. Um, and because that's how vector graphics works. And yeah, I think it would be, I think you'd find it interesting. So if nothing else, someone else for you to have a quick look at. It made me think of you. So whether you like it or not, or you hate it, or you go, yeah, it's really pretty, but I don't want it. That's fine. But I just thought I'd mention it because it is a good thing to mention to you. Because well, it is. I shall see everybody hopefully soon, but on the next time I'm online. So, as I say, I'm hoping to be online more, but I don't want to commit to it because otherwise it might feel like a chore and put me off. So, but take care, everybody. Thank you for joining me today. Um, Always welcome to chat in the Discord. It's always great to talk to all of you. So, thank you for coming and see you again soon. Bye bye.